Hey, fellow babies. Welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. Just a heads up, SIFTD.net is exploring increasing their subscription fee. It will not happen in the month of May. So if you're watching this in May and you get your subscription in, you get the $30 fee. Cannot tell you what it's going to. They're trying to figure it out, but might as well lock it in for $30. Remember, SIFTD aggregates content you care about. You get to select the things you care about. They have an algorithm. They will sort it for you. They will deliver it to you. It is just a way to save yourself time surfing the web and looking for a bunch of extraneous crap that you don't care about. One other thing, for SIFTD members, anybody who's a U.S. SIFTD member, and this is just because we don't want to deal with international laws, there's going to be a random drawing. We're going to award them a bag of swag, but also we're going to award the winner in the U.S. tickets to my E3 party. Trust me, you want to go. I'm not giving you any more details on my party because I don't want gate crashers, but those of you who win, you get to meet me and 800 or 900 of my very best friends, all of whom are big muckety mucks in the games industry. So you want to go, it'll be cool. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Sign up for SIFTD, and I'll do this every year. So next year we'll have probably a few more winners if it works out. If people who come aren't embarrassing, I think it'll be cool. Anyway, welcome back to Pachter Factor. We're going to get to your questions now. Our first question comes from SIFTD from Disturbed Swan. It's kind of a multi-part question, but same theme. How much will releasing the Nintendo NX in March 2017 affect sales of the console, and why? Is pushing back the release of Zelda for Wii U to release day and date with the NX version fair to Wii U owners? And then I'm going to talk about what Nintendo's doing with NX and what they're doing with E3. The truth is, if you looked at Nintendo's Wii U forecast for this year that began April 1st, they're on a March 31st fiscal year, they only forecast 800,000 Wii U's. So they clearly intend to discontinue production of the Wii U. They don't think they're going to sell any, which is pretty sad. So before we talk about the late release of Zelda, just the idea that this thing is being discontinued in its fourth year is pretty sad and not fair to Wii U owners. That is a signal to third parties, don't even bother making Wii U software, because we're not going to get a bigger installed base. It's at 12 million and something. It's going to be at 13 million by the time its life is over. That's the worst selling console of all time. I know someone's going to look this up and tell me that ColecoVision or Intellivision sold fewer than 13 million. I'm sure. It's the worst selling console since the 1990s. How's that? Anyway, I think that the delay of Zelda is less because of the timing of the NX launch than it is because of the timing of when Zelda's actually going to be finished. I think that's one of the problems that Nintendo faces. Their games are way too good, way too high quality for anybody to expect them to come out on any kind of a reasonable release schedule. And I'd say, that's comparable to what you see from Rockstar. It's like you don't get games from Rockstar every year. Can anybody name the last game that Rockstar put out? Oh, it's Grand Theft Auto 5, which came out in 2013, and then again in 2014, and then again in 2015. And here we are, it's May of 2016, no Rockstar title announced. The idea that Rockstar can put out one game in 4 years, and I know they keep adding content to GTA Online, which requires GTA 5 to play, that you'll forgive them. 900 people, one game, 4 years. That's pretty amazing. So I'm not going to get on Nintendo's case, because I could make an argument that any Zelda game is every bit as intricate and cool and well made as any GTA game. They're different, obviously, but Nintendo puts their heart and soul into these games. So believe me, the pushback of the release has nothing to do with NX. It's really because Zelda's just taken that long to get done. Now back to NX. The launch in March is actually a very good window. Normally you get a boost in demand because of holiday. So almost every console has launched in November, October, November. And normally what you see with console launches is they're sold out immediately. They're on eBay for $1,000 or more. We certainly saw that with the Wii. Normally consoles sell out because the manufacturers don't make enough to satisfy holiday demand, and they do that on purpose because they're never really sure if the console is going to sell well. If you launch in March, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have the surge of demand from gift givers, so gift giving happens at holiday. Launching in March, I think, actually makes eminent sense because it allows Nintendo to manage demand. Let's pretend demand for the NX is 10 million units the first week. They can safely make 10 million, and if they're wrong and demand is only 8 million, the other 2 million are going to sell by Christmas. They're not going to get in trouble. So they can overproduce for a March launch. If demand's only 5 million, there'll be plenty of demand later in the year. Demand's only 2 million, there'll be plenty of demand. They're going to gauge demand before they actually go to their manufacturing facilities and set out a production plan. But the point is, there should be plenty of supply, so if you decide to pre-order one, you're going to get one, of course. If you decide to wait on pre-order, you're going to get one within a week of launch because they will be available with a spring launch. Now, with that said, Nintendo isn't going to show NX at E3. And E3, by my measure, is 9 months before March of 17. So not only aren't you going to see it, we don't even know what it's called, and we don't know what the feature set is. Now, if that's true, then how are we going to have any software for the device? I mean, there will be, because there are a couple of Japanese partners who have development kits, and Nintendo obviously have some stuff. But no third-party software on the West. I mean, there's no way EA is working on any games for the NX launch. My belief is Nintendo's not giving us feature set because they're not final yet. I think that they're not sure exactly what they're going to throw into the box, what it's going to be priced. They haven't determined a marketing campaign, which tells me that March 2017 is a squishy date. By squishy, I don't mean that it won't come out by then. I mean that Nintendo has the flexibility to delay the launch. If you have a firm date of November as a launch and you miss by a month, you miss Christmas. If you have a date of March 2017 as a launch, you can miss by 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months and not miss Christmas. So my best guess is Nintendo saying March 17 because that's within the fiscal year. It appeases investors. But if you look at Nintendo's revenue guidance, it doesn't look like they've got a big number in there for new hardware. You kind of parse together all of the things that they talked about for their overall revenue. It looks like the NX is a rounding error. If I had to bet, I would say March 2017 is not happening. If I had to bet, I'd say April or May. I think that if they're not showing it at E3, you've got a ticking clock. If you get past October and we haven't seen this thing, it isn't coming out in March. There's no chance. Another question from SIFTD from Substance 104. I think the PlayStation 4 Neo is a fantastic idea for those who don't mind paying for higher frame rates and resolutions. How successful do you see this trend of updating consoles becoming? Do you think that the NX will be in trouble if Sony drops the base PS4 model to $249? I think that we haven't had the ability to upgrade consoles mid-cycle, mostly because each succeeding chipset has been so prohibitively expensive. I think that PlayStation VR is the real reason that Sony is taking the chance here and upgrading the console, because I think that they would like PlayStation VR to run at a higher frame rate and higher resolution, just to be more comparable to Oculus and to HTC Vive. So my view is that that's the driver, but Sony's being pragmatic about it. If we come up with a faster frame rate, faster CPU, better GPU, we're going to allow developers to put, kind of a toggle mode so you can up the frame rate in the game. All games have to be designed to lowest common denominator, so you're going to have to make the game work on the legacy PS4 system. But if you want to up the frame rate, then, flick the switch on your game and play it in high def mode. So essentially it's going to be a backward compatible console. Yeah, I think that's smart. I think if consumers want it, that's great. I'm really curious if this PlayStation 4, this PlayStation 4 Neo comes in at a higher price point, because the question is, does it replace the PS4 or does it come in side by side with the PS4? So maybe $400 for the Neo and $300 for the PS4. And your question, how successful do I see the trend? I think it's interesting because Microsoft sounds like they're not doing it. So let's see how it works with PS4. If it works, then I think you'll see a Xbox 1.1, in 2017. Microsoft will try it if it works for PlayStation. Sony is trailblazing, but I honestly believe because of PSVR. And if it really does sell a lot of consoles, I think Microsoft will take a hard look and consider doing that. As far as whether the NX will be in trouble if Sony drops the base PS4 to $249, if Sony's going to discontinue the PS4, they know exactly what they're doing, and so they're already impacting their manufacturing plan. So if they're going to discount it, they're probably not even making it anymore. If they're making it, they're making enough to last them, so they run out exactly the day that the PS4 Neo comes out. So we'll see. Then they really don't have to have a clearance price. I mean, they'll probably clear the last 100,000 or 200,000 units. If they're going to run them side by side, then yes, I think the PS4 base model will drop to $249. Whether that impacts the NX, good question. I don't know what the NX is. So if you know what it is, let me know. And if you know what it's going to be priced, let me know. As far as I can tell, Nintendo's doing something that looks like Apple TV. They're making a box that's going to have a CPU, GPU in it, but it's going to effectively go to the internet and run games off the internet. So it'll be all four Nintendo mobile games that are going to be available by then. And possibly we'll have a hard drive or some flash memory, and you can download, through the Nintendo eShop, you can download all their games and play them on your TV. I don't know that that's going to cost $249. That might cost $100. Might cost $129. On the other hand, it might have a full-blown high-end graphics processor. Maybe it's going to be, the equivalent of the PlayStation 5, and it's going to cost $500. I don't know the answer. Nintendo hasn't told us. I'm done guessing what Nintendo might do. Those of you big Nintendo fanboys out there, all 12 million of you, you supported the Wii U by buying one. You supported Nintendo. There are 12 million of you. I know there's 100 million of you who think I'm an asshole, but there's only 12 million of you who bought a Wii U. So those of you who put your money where your big mouths are, good for you. And you 12 million are free to trash me anytime you want. The other 88 million of you, just go to hell. Like, you shouldn't be ragging on me. You don't support Nintendo with your money, so you can't be a big fanboy. Our next question this week on SIFTD comes from Twitter, from @Fant Tom. Fant Tom. There's two T's. I know it's supposed to be Phantom, but Phantom only has one T. How did you become an analyst for the games entertainment sector rather than some other market segment? Oh, what a great question. Okay, so I got hired here to be the boss, and I'm no longer the boss. So I was a director of research. And as director of research, I felt that it was my obligation to pick up some stocks, because I thought it would be inappropriate for me to tell all the other analysts how to do their jobs if I didn't actually do the same job that they did. So I chose the sector that I thought would be the easiest to cover, which was not video games, which was footwear. And the reason I picked footwear after just months of searching was because I live in LA, I work in LA, and at the time, Skechers, and they're still here, and Vans were in LA. So all this kind of converged, and I thought, I'll just pick up the 3 footwear guys in LA, because what the hell. And I actually was okay at it. And in 2001, a guy that I hired, Miguel Iribarren, stud, who had come here solely to pick up video games. It was his idea, and he was very good at it. He got a job at Midway. So he left working for us to go to Midway. And at the same time, I realized I really didn't like being the boss. I didn't like the headache of dealing with all these whiny people. Just imagine me times like 15, and that's what it is to be the boss. And so I went to our management, and I said, I don't want to be the boss anymore. I want to pick up video games because Miguel doesn't cover them anymore. And I wasn't very good at it for about 4 or 5 years. In 2006, I started to get really good at it. So notwithstanding all of you Nintendo fanboys who don't own a Wii U, who think I'm wrong about everything, I'm pretty good as far as investors are concerned. So I ended up just kind of getting in there because a colleague of mine, Miguel, chose video games because he was just interested in it, and he seemed to be very successful, managed to leverage his video game job here into a real job for a video game publisher. He was head of strategy, and I think made plenty of money at Midway before they went bankrupt. And Miguel's the reason that I am a game analyst, so was just one of those fluky, weird things. Someday you should ask me how I met my wife. It's an equally fascinating, fluky story. A question from SIFTD from Scoba85. Could a publisher ever announce a game that isn't even in development just to raise the price of its stock? I mean, could. Anybody could do anything. If a publisher were to do that and it really wasn't in development and it really was never going to be in development, somebody in the firm would go to jail. So the answer is they would never do that. Now, that's not true if a publisher, let's say, signs the rights to a major motion picture franchise. So, like, when the day EA signed the Star Wars franchise, for example, odds are the day they signed it, they didn't have a team working on the Star Wars game, because until they signed the deal, they wouldn't commit the resources to be developing the game. So there's an example of an announcement of a game that isn't in development yet, but my guess is literally within an hour of signing the deal, they had a team being formed and they were taking steps and they were in good faith going to make the game. And of course, the Star Wars game came out a couple of years later. So clearly, EA is a good company and acted above board. I am certain that there have been games announced in the past that sounded like a good idea and then just didn't make any sense at all. Like Duke Nukem, right? Which how many years was that? 10 years or no more, but 12, 14 years before it came out. So there are games announced all the time that just don't quite make it. But almost every single time, I'd say 99% of the time, they're in development. They just don't make it because they suck, because they can't get them right. But the tone of your question was, would somebody say, we're going to do an Avatar game lined up with the Avatar movie, and we're some, let's just pick fictional company. We're a crappy little company that's worth $100 million, which is small for a publisher, and we're going to announce that we got the Avatar game, and the stock's going to go from $100 million to $500 million, but we're not actually working on it. That would be fraud. And the management team, somebody on the management team, if not all of them, would go to jail. So the answer is they could, but at the risk of, that's like saying, could a publisher ever rob a bank and then not tell anybody about it and throw the money into the company to raise the price of the stock? Yes, they could, but that's breaking the law and they wouldn't. So yes, they could. No, they won't. All right, fellow babies, thanks for joining us on this week's Pachter Factor. We hope to see you every week heading into E3. Pretty psyched about E3. Remember, we're on SIFTD.net. It is a for-profit site. I don't get paid, but my friend Shane is actually here taking up his time. We've got lights, we've got camera, we got audio. He's got to edit all this crap. It costs money. You got until the end of May to become a SIFTD member at the low price of $30 a year. And for $30, they sift all of your data. They give you relevant feeds on stuff you care about. Plus, you get some pack loving. If you don't want to join SIFTD, we understand, which is why I insist that this stuff show up on YouTube, but a week late. So you get pack a week early. Might as well get it while it's real and while it's topical. If not, you can watch us on YouTube. Remember, if you have a question, submit them to me on Twitter, @MichaelPachter, copy @SIFTDGames. If you want to submit a question through the site, it's pretty easy. You'll figure it out when you're on the site. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.